Hello to all your wealth partners. Haven't done a wealth partner update for a little while, and so let's just get this camera a little bit better. And I was on a plane last week, Friday, getting home, and it was my son's end of year play, so I just didn't have time to be able to do it in terms of getting it where we're at. So let's look at the updates for this week. I think the first thing that I wanted to start with was, for me, something about character. I listened to a great motivational piece this morning, and it pretty much, and you've heard me say this before, it said that character is not how you behave when you're winning. It's how you behave when you've got your back to the wall. And I think it epitomizes 2018. You know, it's been an extremely, extremely tough year. And, you know, I've got a huge amount of emotion around it. And, you know, it's been really interesting because in these tough times, it's when you truly, you know, see people's characters. And I always say that in tough times, individual character stands up, and also team characters and teams coming together stand up. And some people leave, some people stay. The true teams are built through tough times. You know, diamonds are not built, in a nice environment. They're built under pressure. And so for me, you know, I've spoken to a couple of wealth partners, and they've sort of given me some feedback, and that I should talk about, you know, the good and the bad, and the warts and all, and everything else. And I think it's very valuable feedback. I think, you know, what's also challenging when you're running a community company is that, you know, sentiment begets momentum, and you know, these things are important. You know, so it's all good and well to talk around the warts and all, but it's also very important to not only focus on the negative, but also focus on the positive. You know, what Tony Robbins says, which I love, is that, you know, if you've got a car driving, and when people have a blowout, what's quite interesting is that 99% of people actually hit the street pole. And the reason being is at the moment they have the blowout, now even though the street poles are 100 feet apart, or 100, you know, about 30 something meters, they literally go, I don't want to hit the street pole, I don't want to hit the street pole, I don't want to hit the street pole, and they're looking straight at the street pole, and they drive straight in the street pole, and they crash and they die. Or maybe they don't die, but anyway, you know what I mean. And yet, you know, what they get taught to do when they do driving school is that the moment you have a blowout, rather than looking at the street pole, you look at where you want to go. And it's a metaphor that I always use in my life. And, you know, so often when, you know, if I'm guilty of only talking about the future and the positive and where we want to go, maybe you can understand me a little bit better, that I believe if we focus on all our problems and all the, you know, negatives that could happen, then, you know, we'll probably make that a reality. Whereas if we, you know, if we focus on what's working and what the opportunities are, then, you know, we can also make that a reality. So let's look at some of the challenges we've had this year. You know, we've been through it in detail. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time. This is just a weekly wealth update. But, you know, we came into this year with a lot of promise, a lot of hope. We had a great, you know, board meeting and leadership team meeting and everything early in the year. And then, you know, the portfolio sale was supposed to happen by the 20th of March, and it was going to bring in $3.6 million. It had a, you know, I remember, you know, board members pretty much saying that it had it was more than 90% going to go ahead. So, you know, we pretty much banked on it. We had the wealthy coin, and complete idiots in 2017 raised $15 million plus with no business model, no team. So with a team of our caliber and our track record, you know, we budgeted completely conservatively on $5 million. And in the space of 2 months, neither of them worked. Both of them failed. And it was really, really tough. You know, we had to say goodbye to some team members. We had to cut our costs. We had to dramatically restructure. And as tough as it's been in 2018, I think that equally we'll look back on 2018 as this defining pivotal moment, because we should have always split up. My weakness, my mistake, was that I should have split up the property company and the tech company earlier, the platform company, because they're different types of companies, they're different types of business models, they're different types of cultures. And so that, you know, that pain really created an environment for us to be able to make the tough decisions. And, you know, going through that restructure has taken the best part of 6 months to restabilize and get everything up and running. And, you know, one of the greatest challenges we've had, if we want to talk about warts and all, is cash flow. You know, we as a tech company, if you take a company, you know, any tech platform, if you take Uber, it doesn't rely on one big lumpy sale. It relies on thousands of cars, millions of cars, trips happening every day. Airbnb, same thing. My wife just, you know, got paid, you know, for the person who's staying in our house, and, you know, Airbnb, you know, we got, whatever, 13,000 Rand, and they got 1,300 Rand or whatever it was. And I thought to myself, it's amazing that it's getting those little clips all over the place, transaction costs all over the place. But, we weren't like that. We were property, we had a property, we had a tech business model with a property cash flow. These big lumpy deals, and like still, Med 10 took forever. Med 12 is about to close now. Med 13 is just, we've marketed and whatever. Now it's been cancelled. Now it becomes Med 11 or 14 or whatever. And that's fine if you're a property company or a REIT with assets under management and that whole business model. But it's not fine if you're a tech platform. And so cash flow has been a really big challenge. And for 4 years, it's been a big challenge. And, I have not been able to capitalize the business in terms of where the money needs to be spent for the tech, in terms of the tech. You need to spend money. If you're building a platform, you need to spend money on the tech and the digital. And so it's been really interesting. And I do believe now with the restructure, we can solve that. And, I look at it as an individual. When you take people like Ken and myself, more than 50 to 70% of my time in 2018 has been focused on, cash flow and funding the business. Imagine if you could have all my energy and Ken's energy on growing the business and growing revenues. And that's really what Cedars brings us. And so for me, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And again, so hopefully for those of you who say that I only talk about the good, hopefully now I've shared with you some of the intense, tough times that we've had and the pressure that we've been under. But, what's interesting for me is that now let's start to look at the positives, and through all those tough times and through very limited resources, we've had to be very resourceful. In this last week, we've now gone over 20,000 members. Yes, I said 20,000 members. They come from 125 countries. It's amazing. Every other platform on the planet is in one country. We're not. We're global. 125 countries. I just think it's phenomenal. And we've only done marketing in South Africa and China. So there's 123 other countries that have found us digitally and online. We've had now, this week, we went over $80 million in equity through the platform. And we've done over $520 million in real estate deals and property deals. Now just take a minute. I'm very good at beating myself up and always wanting to be the billion-dollar company and always wanting to focus on the future. But sometimes I've got to sit back and go, wow, well done, team. That's a phenomenal result. Well done, community. There's no one else out there that has those stats or results. Not one other platform. And so sometimes I've got to sit back and just recognize, because I think it's important. And, what's interesting to me is that, when you go to the Cedars campaign and you look at the Cedars campaign now, and I want to share my screen with you quickly, is that it's really, really fascinating to me, because we went live with Cedars last Wednesday, and we basically have been trending. So I'm hoping you can see my screen here. We've been trending at the top of Cedars for 7 days. We've now got 161 investors. Now, remember that when we did when we help people off market, generally our wealth partners and whatever, and thank you to all of you that have supported us in the 10X campaign. We deeply, deeply appreciate it. And to those that haven't, please, I look forward to your support. What's fascinating is that you can add probably another 80 people to that. So there's 240 people that have sponsored this campaign. And we completely overfunded. We're at 146. But again, to be fair, we had a two-stage approach. We had the base growth funding, which was £750,000 or $1 million. And we did that in 48 hours. We then went to £1 million in another 48 hours. And our overall target is £1.5 million, which is $2 million. And we're well on the way to getting there. What's fascinating, though, is what I love about this platform. And I really suggest, if you're a wealth partner and you spend time investing in the company, is spend some time on this platform. It's really interesting to see how crowdfunding is supposed to work. And you can see all the discussions here. What I find fascinating is that, there's so much debate. So take like property valuation. So a number of wealth partners have asked me about, how are we going to, vet our partners or vet our properties. Well, go read about it. Go and look at here. I've explained all the GID system, how it all works, how we're going to operate. You can see all our different documentation in terms of where it is. It's absolutely fascinating for me, the engagement that's happening here. If you go down, there's another one. There's a company called British Pearl that has a similar valuation to us, but their metrics are like less than 10% of where we're at. And again, there's all the engagement around this. Just by the way, if you actually want to go to British Pearl, They ranted and raved around us not having our FCA license yet. And it was fascinating because it was competition versus collaboration. And Ken and I were able to turn that around completely. And if you want to go look at it, go look at British Pearl on the Cedars site and see what we said about it. See how we believe that we're going to create a global real estate marketplace with trusted partners, because it's pretty clear from that in terms of what we've done. And I just find it fascinating. We had a long conversation on valuations in the webinar last on Tuesday night, and I won't go into all the detail because it was all in that webinar. But what's interesting, if you just look at comparables, British Pearl has a higher valuation than us, and we're actually being very conservative at the moment. But the reason we're doing it is that we want Cedars to be a success. I, as the CEO of the group and the leadership team and the board, never once have I had the ability to have a 12-month runway to build a company. Never once, not once yet. And with our burn rate at $150,000, if you times that by 12, that's $1.8 million. If you give yourself a bit of headroom, that's another $200,000, call it $2 million. And, taking revenue off the table, and obviously we intend to earn revenue, that will give us more than 12 months, 12 to 18 months plus, to fully focus on growing this business and turning the vision into reality. And that's why Cedars is so important, and the growth in terms of where we're at. The next thing that's important is that we launched all our PR in the UK. We got some nice PR coverage last week in terms of where we're at. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find that quickly. In terms of sharing, I didn't have it ready, so let me just see here quickly. No, I'm not gonna jump around to that. I don't know where it is. Okay, and then we've got 3 UK deals, so it's fascinating. We've the trip to the UK was very, very useful, and we basically we've got some residential property, we've got student accommodation, and we've got a commercial property right in the centre of London. So we're going to try and look to get those up on the platform as quickly as we possibly can. But it's just so beautiful, man. It's where this marketplace is supposed to be going. Variety, selection, quality partners, versus one deal at a time. It's just so pumped, so excited about it. The next thing that's fascinating for me is that, we've had a couple of webinars. We did a webinar 2 weeks ago with Richard and Gavin on the tech, Richard on the, how he sees a global real estate marketplace. This Tuesday, we did one with Ken on the financial and the numbers. Next week, I'm doing one on the global, the big picture, where we're going to be in 10 years. And what's fascinating to me is that it takes quite a lot of effort to sort of do marketing and get webinars going, whatever. And this one, I've been too busy with the Cedars campaign, and Richard and Lee and Suraj, who's our outsourced partner with Salesforce Marketing Cloud, have just been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. Okay, like we had 105 people turn up to the last webinar, 115 turn up to this webinar, and this is it, boys and girls. This is where it gets exciting. And sorry, Ken, I'm just finishing off my Wealth Partner updates here. You're welcome to listen in. And what's really interesting for me is that when one looks at the email marketing, customer journey, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, now we're getting digital. Now we're working with people that understand digital. Now we understand digital in terms of building all these customer journeys and everything else. And I'm not saying we didn't, but now we're playing in the pro league. We're not in the amateur league anymore. And if you're interested in the webinar next week, we're going to spend some time on that. With regards to the Wealth University, this is something that I'm deeply passionate about, and those numbers continue to grow on Udemy. I'll share my screen here again quickly with you. And we now got 1,312 people doing this course. I'll just refresh it and see if it's changed. From 95 different countries. Now it's 1,317, which I find absolutely fascinating. And for me, the wealthuniversity.org site has been built now. We've got the inner circle. We've got the digital, mastermind. Now, just by the way, the inner circle is going to be the bringing together of everyone. All the groups, all the WhatsApp groups and everything are now going to become paid-for community groups so that we can really add value and drive them. And I'd highly recommend that you go and look at the products that have been created. So this is the investor test, where you'll get your full investment report. This is the inner circle, where you've got all the details with regards to the inner circle. Then you've got the digital real estate mastermind. We're actually making this. We're going to have 6 different thought leaders, and I've got it down here behind me. We're going to have global, we're going to have blockchain, we're going to have exponential technology, we're going to have cryptocurrencies, we're going to have consumer of the future, and we're going to have future trends. And we're going to have the best in the world coming together once a month. We're going to make a short video like TED Talks to teach you the latest trends. It's compressing time. It's making, boom, 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 boom. There'll be one webinar per month from one of the thought leaders. And it's basically the intersection of technology and property so that we can have the best in the world, and you can be learning. And then we've got the Global Real Estate Mastermind. And this is really helping people become global citizens. It's a very unique group of people. And, there'll be no more than 10 on a group. You'll hold each other accountable. You'll be driven through a process. It will really, the intention is to make 2019 a massive success for you in terms of you becoming a global citizen. And the beauty is up until, Christmas, we're actually offering, if anyone puts into the Caesar campaign at the, the blue level, the silver or the gold, you can actually get these masterminds for free. So you could actually give it as a gift, and effectively someone could be part of it and they could be a shareholder in the company in terms of where we're at. In terms of the FCA, that's the regulator in the UK. We are desperately trying to get our application in. We had to get all our board members sorted. We also had to get independent UK board members. Hilda, Scott, and Paul don't count because we're not in the UK, even though I've got a British passport and a British house. And so we're working through that process. We really want to get that in as quickly as possible. Gavin and the tech guys have built an incredible tech solution with automated, integrated wallets and everything, banking solutions. The challenge is we have to have our FCA license to be able to unlock that. And so we're really working through that process and, hope not to have any delays. And it's why we moved to the UK so that we can be independent and regulated in the UK in terms of where we're at. The last couple of things for me is that we had our board meeting last Friday, and we've organized our next board meeting. I think it was around the 25th of January. Don't hold me exactly to the date. So that's all around strategy, where the board's going, everything else in terms of the company. And then we've also planned for the AGM at the end of, hello Paul, how are you doing? I'm just finishing off the Wealth Partner update here. So I'll be another minute if you don't mind. But we've agreed to do the AGM at the end of January. So the idea is that the leadership team is planning out 2019 now and in the first half of January. Then we're going to have the board meeting in around the 25th of January. And then about a week later, we'll present at the AGM to all the shareholders in terms of where we're at. So I'll be sending out those dates, those exact dates in terms of where we're at. My last two comments, I've been dealing quite a lot with Martin and Justin around the EGM. So that's the Allvest thing. I don't speak on behalf of Allvest. I speak on behalf of Scott Picken as a shareholder. And for me, two things. I don't necessarily agree with the valuation at 29 cents, and I don't necessarily agree with the rights issue. But what I do agree with is Martin Freeman. And I believe that he's the right CEO for the business. I believe that he will drive, and I'm talking now as a shareholder, my shares. I believe he'll drive that business and create value for me as a shareholder. And on that basis, I agreed to back Martin. And if he believes that that's the right strategy for Allvest, then I'm prepared to back him. And so I've signed the forms backing the resolution for Martin. Now, I'm not telling anyone else what to do. I'm just telling you what we're doing. And you can see that I need to come to an end because I've actually got an important strategic meeting with Ken and Paul who've just joined. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the EGM, which is happening on Monday the 3rd. I'm backing Martin. I sometimes believe that as a community, everyone believes in democracy and everything else. If you look at the greatest countries in the world, it's Singapore, it's China, it's Dubai. It's autocratic dictatorship. And what's interesting in those circumstances is that they truly get results versus a bunch of people running around by committee not achieving anything. So that's my principle on why I'm backing Martin. And then my very last comment is that for those of you in Joburg, we do have Wealth Partner drinks tomorrow. It's the 1st of December at 5 p.m. at Emperor's Palace. And we will send the details. You can click on the details below here. So to Ken and Paul, sorry for being a minute or two over here. To all the Wealth Partners, thank you very much. Hopefully you can all see that we're not only talking about the positives. This has been a tough year, but I really believe that the momentum is going in the right direction now. A lot of good things are being put in place. And we really are preparing ourselves next year for a good solid year, which is actually what this meeting's about with Paul and Ken. And we now need to just keep driving the Cedars campaign and make it a success. So that's Scott Picken. Thank you very much for your time. A little bit of a longer Wealth Partner update, but obviously so much feedback over the last couple of weeks on the different groups. And I just really wanted to let you know what we're up to. And sometimes I would ask you to just respect how much pressure we've been under, and it's nice to see smiles coming back on the team's faces as we start to win again. Have a great week. Cheers.